Adventurers in audio land, welcome to Point Noir, home of the Point Noir podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jerry III, aka Kimono Jack, and we are back to present to you Session 6 here at the Point. Wanted to talk to two things right before we introduce our guest today. Number one, thank you guys so much for leaving reviews and ratings on iTunes. We really appreciate it. Get a chance to read every single one, and we'll start sharing the 5-star reviews we get as we go along. Thank you guys so much. We're glad you're enjoying what we're doing, and we're only getting started, baby, so hang on for the ride. We out here. And number two, we finally established a process by which we'll start collecting names so that we can sponsor somebody to get their passport every single month. I don't know if you guys have heard all of our episodes yet, but if you haven't, Point Noir is committed to sponsoring a man of color to get his passport every single month. We're going to do this through a simple 3-step process so we can get everybody who wants to participate involved. Number one, make sure you follow Jerry the Third on Twitter. Step number one. Step number two, tell us what having a passport would mean to you. In any way that occurs to you naturally. You can simply write it. You might want to record a short video, maybe post a picture, maybe show us your travel plans. I don't know. It's open to your interpretation, but definitely tell us what having a passport would mean to you. Step number two. And step number three, the last step, and possibly the most important outside of steps number one and number two, is make sure you hashtag PassPoint18. Include the hashtag PassPoint18. That's PassPoint, the number 1 and the number 8. That way, with that identifier, we can collect all the mentions that have been received on Twitter, and at the end of the month, choose somebody at random, and then progress with the rest of our process from there. So there you go. There's all the news that's fit to tell. Thank you guys again for rating, subscribing, and reviewing the show. We really appreciate it. Without further ado, we're going to introduce today's special guest. Joining us in today's session, we have none other than the Jon Robert. Make sure you follow him on Instagram at the Jon, Jon, no H, Robert. And if his photos look familiar, don't be surprised. Many of the top travel accounts have picked them up and shared them with their audiences because they're just that good. We have a great time talking about his travels through Asia and South America, how he hires private chefs when he goes out, and how he stays and flies on the low. You definitely want to have a pen and pad ready so you can take notes. I even learned some things on this one. I really appreciate it. We also talk about his new passion project focused on travel called Where in the World. And you can follow them at Where in the World and see some amazing hotelscapes and beautiful photography, again, that he presents for all of us to be inspired by to go see something new. So if that all sounds great to you, sit back, grab a chill beverage. We're going to jump into the session. The Jon Robert, welcome to the Point Noir. How you doing, fam?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. How'd you like that intro? We put, the V's in there. We're trying to mix things up.
Yes, we're going back to the King's English.
Hey, I'm with it, man. Dude, I'm blessed to have a travel king such as yourself on the show, man. And I'm excited to learn more about your story. So I'm glad we could find the time.
Yes, I'm glad that you invited me on this platform to share my story. It's definitely a good one, in my opinion.
And that's the only opinion that really matters. So, let's keep it a buck. That's what we do here at The Point.
Right.
So for those who might not be following you already on Instagram, so, extra plug at the Jon Robert. You got some amazing pictures that have been reposted by pretty well-regarded travel pages. We see you in Asia. We see you in Colombia. So tell us a bit about your origin story.
So I'm a native of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hey, PA, gang.
Yes, the Steel City. So I was born and raised there. Grew up in a missionary household. So both my parents are missionaries. So at a very young age, I traveled more so within the States, but also had some few international experiences. So I think that's kind of where my love for traveling began. I remember taking like my first flight by myself. I was like maybe 7 years old. And I flew from Pittsburgh to Texas, and my dad met me in Texas.
Wow.
So that was a thing where, I always flew, and I've always been comfortable in that element. So that's kind of who I am. And then living there, before I went to college, or in college, I needed a job, so I got into hotels,
Hmm.
which only kind of fed the beast a little more because now I have access to cheap hotel rooms.
Right. Yeah, yeah. What are those
um,
discounts like? What are they like? 70% discounts?
it all depends where you're going, time of year. Those things vary. With Marriott, we have the opportunity during between November and January to get double discounts. So I've stayed like in Miami for like $19.50. One time I got the Times Square Renaissance for like $69. And to get anything in Times Square for $69 is like
Right.
absolutely amazing. So
Right. They
yeah,
might
it
they
all
might
it all
fine you
depends.
$69 for sleeping on the street in Times Square. That's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
$69 is probably what you pay for to park for 30 minutes in Times
Real
Square.
talk.
So all those kind of fed my love of travel. So
Yeah, that's what's up, man. A missionary
yeah.
family, that's got to be very interesting. And what a way to get started. Uh, did you guys also move your homestead or your parents? Like, how did that work? I'm curious.
So my mom was a missionary and my dad were both missionaries. Actually separate from each other. They actually met because my dad was also a traveling evangelist, and my mom was the secretary of her church at the time.
Hmm.
Um, so they kind of did mission works separately. They really didn't do a lot of mission works together. Once they got married, my mom kind of stayed home, took care of me and worked, where my dad kind of still did some mission things and also was a travel evangelist. But they both had a world scope and the idea of what the world was, and they wanted to make sure that I had that same um, ideology or same experience. They didn't want me to be limited by, just the United States or just by a black experience, quote unquote, or a white experience. They wanted me to experience the full world and all the things that it had to offer me.
Wow, that's really something to be grateful for. Especially at such a young age, to have that perspective or the idea that there are other options or other ways out there. Like that's shout out to your parents.
Yeah, they're dope. So yeah, I'm definitely grateful. I know that that's not everyone's story. And it's great also being an only child because I didn't have anyone to compete with. So all the resources kind of went towards me.
It's not even that you don't have anybody to compete with, but you're always going to be the best. Like you're going to be
Yes,
best in every category.
yes. So all I do is win. All I do is win.
Hey, listen, Monopoly is a game of life for a reason. Um,
Yes.
love it. So let's fast forward a bit. So when did you? You said you kind of got the travel bug when you were young and had some experiences, even being international. When did you kind of set your sights to make this a permanent part of your lifestyle? Because there are many people who might spend vacations with their family, domestically or abroad, but at some point they say, "Nah, let's do something maybe more quote unquote practical." It doesn't entice them in that way. Kind of, what was that moment for you?
That's a very good question. I guess the I almost stumped. I guess the moment for me was I just realized how fleeting life can be,
Hmm.
and having an opportunity. I think my first international trip was to the UK. I went to Birmingham, um, and like seeing the culture there and seeing things and experiencing there, I wanted more of it. And then in college, you don't have a lot of money, so you don't always have a lot of resources. So I think once I got into my career and realized that I wanted to create memories and spend money on things that created value beyond things that may be tangible.
Yeah.
I think that was really the thing that struck me as saying like travel does that for me because I've always traveled. Even if it was domestic, I've always been a traveler, and it's been my thing where, especially in the hotel industry, I believe to give great service, you have to go somewhere and be refueled. And
Mm,
so I always wanted to keep a good work-life balance. So I would, go on trips and go away and have experiences, but also be able to bring those experiences back to my place of work, and say, hey, I was in Chicago and they did this, or I was in Miami and they did that. And I think that'd be something great. That we could do for our guests, or make our hotel run more efficiently. So that kind of was the catalyst. I think really getting into the hotel industry opened my eyes to the world of travel and just a greater spectrum in what I've already knew it. And then just realizing life is fleeting. I think a lot of times at a young age we believe like we'll live forever. And the one thing I didn't want to ever happen if I would die tragically, and I know this may sound morbid, but I don't want anyone ever say that was a waste of life. Like,
mm.
oh, if I would, if God would take me home today, no one would be like, oh, well, he didn't get a chance to even live his life. Everyone's going to say he did what he wanted to do. He saw the world. He was very fulfilled in the things that he did. And I think that's what, your life experience should be about. It should be fulfilling to you, and you should enjoy the ride, and even take some people along with you.
100%, bro. I definitely resonate with that. And, on investing in yourself, to have something more than material things. It's said that
Yeah.
travel is the only thing you spend money on and get richer after the fact.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
100%. And I love that you speak to, I might be blowing this out of proportion here, but this is just who I am. You leverage that. You leverage that up for your position by having experiences, like you said, in the hotel industry and seeing Chicago and Miami and bringing it back to where you were based out of. You're actually bringing more value through arbitrage. You've seen something differently. You bring it to your market where they're not doing it. That's a huge value for an employer. And still staying true to your employer like that. That's awesome. Adding tremendous value as an employee through travel. That's dope.
Yeah, it was so interesting. I currently live in Charlotte, and they just opened a brand new Kimpton, and Kimpton is actually one of my favorite hotel brands, just because they do things um, just very different. They're a luxury brand. I like to call them yeah, they're a luxury brand, but they're just not a everyday luxury brand. They're not snotty nose. They'll
Mm.
put like leopard robes in the room, and giraffe print robes in the room, and do really quirky things. It's a lifestyle brand is really what I called it. And I met the general manager, and I was talking to him about just travel in general. And the one thing that he said, he was like, I would take someone with global travel experience before I would take someone with hotel experience. And that just really struck me. And he said, because you have a greater understanding of how the world works, and the people that are going to come through my doors need to have someone who understands them more than they understand how a computer works and how to check someone in. And so I think the value in travel just within my industry, um, it does create a sense of a greater value for an employer, like you said. And even for me, it makes my stock even richer, um, because I have a scope and I understand, and things to do when certain people check in or stay at your hotel, just outside of what we do in the U.S. So I think it's great. And I think for anyone who's looking to just expand the horizons in most careers, um, to have an understanding of their business in an international sense will just always help them in the development. So
100%, dude, and that's amazing that your colleague would even point that out, because I think that's some of what's missing, especially in the service industry, is that true openness to experience and mindset for the global picture. And for sure, a traveler fits that mold, and you can provide really the best service.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
super
goal,
dope.
man. That's the goal.
I like that you're committed to that. So it's interesting that your story doesn't have a hard start and a hard, entryway into travel, because it's always been a part of your life. So could you share with us some experiences that have really changed your perspective or evolved you as a person? I love what you shared earlier about your birthday off the record with us. By the way, happy belated 32, yeah?
Thank you. Yeah, 32, man.
Hey, 32, we out here.
32. We out
Um,
here.
for sure, we gotta celebrate these things, because not every, like you said, not everybody gets it. Not everybody gets
No.
another year around the planet. So I'm fully in celebration mode for you on that. But was there a place that really opened your eyes to a new perspective, or a country that just gave you a different sense of yourself that you didn't have before you got there?
I'll say two places. The first I'll say Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
And the second I would say being in China really changed some things for me. Um, the reason I say Rio, there is an ideology within the United States that Rio is not safe.
Mm.
Um, and I think with our current political environment that we're in, I think that translates to a lot of um, areas that are inhabited by people of color. That we have just a lot of discrepancies or issues or places you should not travel.
Yeah.
I mean, I even think I just got back from Cartagena, and that was deemed a place you shouldn't travel. Or even the U.S.'s relations with Cuba. If you look at these places, they're all um, heavily populated with people of color, and so it strikes me as not odd, but it strikes me as very strategic to create an ideal or create a philosophy that these places are not safe, it, as as if America is 100% safe, But
Right.
so not to get too political, because we're traveling, right? That I think that really opened my eyes when I was in Rio. No one knew that I was not, Portuguese or that I couldn't speak Portuguese. No one knew. They saw me. They saw I was black. They thought I was one of them, and so I didn't stand out. I felt very safe. There was many times actually while I was there, where I actually roamed the street, inebriated, and at no point did I ever feel like my life was threatened or felt like I was a target. Um, and I think also being there, it helped me realize that I think sometimes our scope here in the States makes us think that being black, we are a minority in which we may be within the United States. But
Right.
if you think of South America, everyone that, for the most part there has dark skin, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and that's a continent. Africa is a whole continent of dark skinned people. And so we are actually a greater majority than what we're led to believe. Um, and that's just a whole other can of worms. And so I think being in
No,
Rio
but
kind of
let's pause right there, because that's really important. And
yeah,
that, dude, you hit on a super critical point. Like within the United, you gotta decontextualize yourself from that. Within the United States, we're the only people that speak about being a minority. But in the global realm of things, you didn't even mention India and
right.
Southeast Asia, but people with darker skin, darker complexions are the majority on the planet, and that's a huge key that you don't really understand until you step out and see it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think until you experience that, it shapes, your thinking and your understanding and your ideology. And I haven't done the homework to even say how many countries that would be considered majority, what we consider black. But I would think it would almost be a numbing number to us if we would sit down and do those numbers. And I just think that's another reason why it's important to travel, because it helps you see yourself through a greater lens. And I think because we don't technically have a culture here in America, we have a culture that we've made, but we don't have necessarily a culture that is authentic to our heritage and our lineage. That going to other places can help us find that and connect, and realize that we have a place in the world, even if we may not be accepted in some places in the United. There are places that embrace us and really enjoy us, and I think that's why I said China. When I was in China, I was a celebrity. I felt like Jay-Z. Like everywhere I went, people wanted to stop and take pictures with me because I was black, and I was like,
Yeah.
"This is great!" Like like.
Right.
And that really was that what it was. I mean, they hadn't seen someone, or they don't see someone my complexion every day, and for the first time in my, I felt celebrated by people who did not look like
Wow.
me. And I think that was just such a dynamic experience. Um, just to have that. And no one was nasty. No one, and I don't speak the language. I don't know any Chinese. Like, I don't,
Not even a ni
I
hao?
don't know any Chinese. I don't know.
Okay.
No, listen, I know General So, and that's not even real Chinese.
He ain't even a real person.
He's not even the general. Don't even exist. But but it was just amazing, and for me, I love the challenge of using those non-verbal
Yeah.
communications, uh, because I think there's so much richness in that as well. That sometimes we dumb moments down with
Mm.
words, and the fact that we weren't able to communicate via words allowed us to find other ways to connect, without using them, and still getting our message across to each other. I'm not a skinny guy by any means, and so I was definitely going to eat while I was there, and so I, figure out, well, let me point at this picture. I want noodles. Okay, how you say chicken. We're gonna figure this out. But and they were patient, and they were very understanding. And they were loving. It was very, very intriguing to me to watch people watch me as I walk through and experience um their experience. One quick story: I was walking around, maybe about 30 minutes outside of
Hmm.
Shanghai, and just literally like in a community. I was just like, hey, I want an authentic experience. I don't just want to, see all the lights in
Right.
downtown and fancy hotels. I want to experience the people. And so as I was walking around this building that was being built, and this gentleman came out who had to be at least like 70 years old, 80 years old gentleman. And like, he came out and he saw me, and his face like lit up like a Christmas tree. And he started smiling, he started waving, and so I naturally did the same thing, and we never spoke a word to each other, but our hearts connected, and it was so like such a dynamic moment for me, um, because I don't know him.
Right.
Like, I've never met him.
Right. Right.
But he was so excited to see me that it made such a genuine impact and connection. Um, and I mean, to the point where I made up a story of like how we are connected. I was like, a lot of black soldiers said, in the Vietnam War, that Vietnamese people took care of them and kept, watched out for him. I was like, he probably was in the war. He saw me, thought about one of his old black friends. I just made up this story
Yeah.
because for me there was such a connection that I had to create something to to make the moment almost make sense to me, because that's not something we naturally see in America. A black guy doesn't walk down the street and everyone just starts smiling and waving at him because they're excited to see him, unless he's a celebrity. But to just be an average Joe, it was just a wonderful experience. I just felt so full once I left there.
Yeah.
um so yeah, so I think those two places have really changed my thought process, just on travel, and just being a black man in an international world, and not just being a black man in the United States.
100%. And I love that you had such a great and positive experience, uplifting experience, really, in China, because as you're probably aware, sometimes it doesn't always go that way. And
Yeah.
so for you to leave with nothing but a positive personal experience, that's huge. And I'm actually honored that you could share that on this show, because everyone has different experiences, and a positive one is always worth just as much as something that might not be as positive. So thank you for sharing that. And I love the story. You made up a story
Yeah.
about how you guys might be connected. And it's actually dope that you knew enough about the history to realize that, because U.S. schools are not the best schools on the planet. But in France, even in some of these villages in France, the black soldiers during World War II were the ones that liberated some of these villages and towns from Nazi control. So the first sign of hope they saw coming from the United States were black soldiers who, as you're probably aware, were so heavily discriminated against within their own country, within their own units. But you'll still get smiles from really similar stories to the ones you made up. And it's really uncanny how similar that is to the truth in situations. It's really dope.
Yeah. 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 It's great, man. We are so rich, and sometimes, I think once we catch fire to that, we become so dangerous, and only people you don't rob someone who doesn't have anything,
Mm.
um, and so I think when you realize that someone's at your door trying to take everything you have, that you have something worth fighting for. You have a treasure, and even if you haven't realized it, other people realize that, and they want it, and to me, being a black man is a treasure. It's something to be said that when you can walk in the room, you can change the whole mood.
Mm.
That's power, man.
Right.
Like that's power on a whole nother level. And we've been fed it through negativity, but once we see the positive in it and use it to our advantage, man, how can we change the world even in such a greater way than we already have? So that's and I think travel plays a part in that. It does. So
100%. And to your credit, though, bro, from the bit I know about you from your posts and stuff, when you talk about a man seeing you in the street, because I bet you were probably smiling. He just smiles at you like you're that kind of cat. Not all of us have that aura, have that presence. I have a smile. I keep it in my book bag because that's just who I am. But you're really out there. You come off as an open personality, and it is no wonder that people resonate with that, even when you're outside of your country of birth. That's all you, my guy.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, definitely.
That's what's up, man. So let's see where else. I love what you shared with Rio with feeling a part of the culture, because I think everybody owes it to themselves as a black person to be in that place where you look so normal that even you being drunk in the streets. Shout out to being drunk in the streets, by the way, because that's how you living.
Yeah.
Where
Shout out to duty free.
Hey, exactly, and loose open container laws. My
Yes.
goodness.
In mini bottles.
Right, and a good exchange rate. See, travel is so much. It's math, it's science, it's
Yes.
cuisine is dope. Actually, talk to me about cuisine, because you mentioned that. Where are you getting the best meals at?
Listen, man. Oh,
Because I saw
I
these
don't even
birthday
know.
pictures, y'all. If you again follow him on Instagram, because I was like, did you travel with a chef? Where are you getting this from? Who is supplying you
No.
these
So
delicious meals?
so I want to say about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, one of my fraternity brothers put together a trip to PVR, Puerto Vallarta, and
Wait, where's
we
that?
had
You said that too fast. One more time for me.
Puerto Vallarta,
Oh,
PVR.
okay, where's that? What country is that?
It's in Mexico.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, and so he sponsored a trip there, and we had like this amazing home that was like cut into the coast of the city. You looked out, there was an ocean, there was an infinity pool, three infinity jacuzzis, two off. They had a double master suite, so there's two off the master suite and one that anyone could use. Um, and then we had a private chef every day who cooked our meals, you know. And so that was one of my first, what I'll say, experiences, and I liked it. So I think
Okay.
it kind of created a standard for me of the things that I want to experience when I travel, especially can't travel like a birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and so typically when I travel with my friends, we will hire a personal chef to cook a few of our meals. Usually, when the first day, you've been traveling all day, you just kind of want to chill out in the hotel or Airbnb or whatever accommodations you have, and so we'll always have someone there to kind of do like an opening dinner. There's a few websites that I can't remember, but if you Google it, you guys can find them, that will like recommend chefs in different countries. And then if you're like using an Airbnb or something like that, they also have people typically that they could recommend that they could bring in for you to like, cook you a traditional meal or anything like that. So typically we will
Wow.
have someone come dinner and a closed dinner, which allows us, because we still want to experience the cuisine. We want to go, what we call street meat, go and have, food off the
Hey,
street.
street meat is a
Uh,
thing. Damn it, street meat is the shit.
Street meat is the world's food truck. However,
Yes.
I do, you can't have everybody's street meat. You gotta use exercise and a little wisdom. Um, but it's definitely a fun experience. I think food for me has always been a part of my life. My uncle was a culinary chef, um, and my family loves to eat, as most Black families do. And so I've always tried to include that in my travel experience because I want to have the authentic foods of the city or country that I'm in. So like I had chicken feet for the first time.
Okay.
Um, China. I ate scorpions when I was in China. Um, I wanted to actually do some more exotic things, but I didn't come across them. Like I've seen on the Food Network where like they've had like goat balls and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person that will, I don't like it, I don't eat it. And I just go to
Right.
the
I just won't have
Colonel.
a second goat ball.
Yeah,
Got you.
yeah. I just want the second goat ball.
No, no more testicles for me, please. I'm
you
I'm
know,
I'm quite all right on this experience.
yeah. That's Can we have the next dish? Let's go to dessert. But I think it's important too because like I think a lot of times our understanding of the food based of our excuse me, of our U.S. perspective is very skewed. Like we just talked
Mm.
about Chinese food. Like the Chinese food in China looks nothing and tastes nothing like most of the things that we recognize as China. They're not frying chicken wings and mambo sauce. Shout out to DC, but like they're not doing that now.
Right.
you know, um, but they do have some things like I did have chicken wings while I was there, but it was very different than, it didn't taste like soul food chicken wings like, we have in the States, or they didn't have General Tso or sesame chicken or things that we have created as traditional Chinese dishes. And so to go there and be able to experience their authentic food, even in Italy when I was there, uh, they don't really eat spaghetti and meatballs. That's not,
No. No, and
that's
pizza is not the same.
no, like, yeah, that they call us something totally different. Like, or they have meatballs with spaghetti. It's not like a meat sauce. It's just very, very things are just very different than what America has made them to be. Um, and so it's great to have authentic experiences, and it makes you more knowledgeable. So then when you have sit down and you go to a corporate dinner, or you're in a room with people who may think that you may not have the knowledge kind of share with them, and they're like, oh, you know that, or oh, that's great that you've had that experience. And I think that's another thing, going to another subject that has helped expand my desire to travel, is like there is an unwritten rule of a class, of a certain class of people who only have access to traveling.
Hmm.
And I think, I love going on my, like, young white people too, but they don't have my experience, so I'll say young black people.
Speak your truth. Talk, talk,
Traveling,
talk.
yeah, traveling and viewing the world and going to places that we never considered going, and just having a great time. And I think it's so great and it's so powerful, like beyond words. One of the things at my job that everyone jokes about, they're like, you know, if I'm gone for like 2 days, they're like, "Where's he now?" "Oh, he's probably in Timbuktu." And so, like, that's the laughing joke. And one of the things that I've heard said, is like, "Well, where does he get all this money from?" And
Mm.
like, how does he have all this vacation time? And I'm in my mind, I'm like, well, why does that matter? If my boss approved my time, then that's all that matters.
Right.
But I think people have limited me somewhat because of my color, thinking that those are because they haven't had the access to that experience that as well.
Mm.
Um, and so
Yeah, we call those haters.
I, yeah. And you know what? I don't even know if they're haters. I think that they just don't have the understanding, the knowledge of which I have. Because I went to China for $400. Like
Right.
what people are paying to go to California, I went to China. I went to Italy. My flight was $400 round trip. And so it's also having the knowledge and the savvy to know how to find flights and do those things, because everything, I'm not balling out of control. I would love to be. I would love to, take off 6 months from work and not have to worry about a paycheck. I'm not there yet. We're working on that. But it's just also having the knowledge and the understanding and being savvy uh, that helps create those opportunities for you outside of just the desire to want to do it. So
Wow,
that's that.
100%, 100%. And definitely, I've been thinking about doing some specific segments, having people who are like definitely specialists with credit card points or saving money and stuff. But would you mind sharing just a couple ways you've been able to score tickets for $400 or have these experiences? Just one nugget. I mean,
Yes,
just
yes,
tease them
yes,
with
yes,
something.
yes, yes. So my bread and butter is secretflying.com.
Okay.
I don't know if you know about
I
their
don't. That's
website.
how secret it is. What is
Oh my
this?
goodness, man. You have to know about secretflying.com. Like, matter of fact, if you're listening, go sign on right now. They basically show you deals from all over the world, and then you can kind of click on US and see any deals that are currently being posted through various airlines, and they've kind of done all the work for you. So they'll say like, oh, there's a $300 flight from BWI to Havana, and then you'll see places where you can click the dates or click a link, and it'll actually take you to like Delta's website, or it'll take you to Google Flights, or take you to a place where you could kind of say, well, I want to change the days or make some more flexibility. It does that for you. It is absolutely amazing. Um, I use Google Flights all the time as well. Um, a lot of people use it, but they don't use it to its full extent. Like, you can put in dates. Being a traveler, sometimes it doesn't really matter where I go. I just want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so for the 4th of July, I'm looking to go somewhere. And I was like, hey, the 4th of July, I'm not going to do like a big across the pond trip, but I would be great to like go and get, one of the Caribbean countries off my bucket list.
Yeah.
So like, let me look at going to the Bahamas. So like right now, there's a $323 flight out of Charlotte to the Bahamas over 4th of July weekend on Delta Airlines. The reason I found that out was through uh, secret flying, and then I went to Google Flights and kind of like played with it to find some dates that really work for me. But in Google Flights, you can put in dates and you can say, hey, I want a beach. And then, hey, I want a beach in Europe. And they'll basically take all that information and show you the cheapest flights to Europe, to all the beaches in Europe from your destination. Um, and so those are kind of the tools that I use to find flights and do the things that I do. But yes, secret flying is definitely the mothership, and then all those other tools are actually linked to or referred to by secret flying. So if once you go there, all those other things will kind of just be added to you.
Bad. I'm taking notes. I mean, and I really appreciate the perspective because while I travel, while I am traveled, the way I travel doesn't require me to really look up stuff like this.
Yeah.
Most of my flights are taken care of. So to really be doing it the way you are, it's important even for myself to always get the most up-to-date tips. Sites pop up, sites shut down. Really appreciate that, bro, because I am taking notes. I hope everybody listening is taking notes or whatever too.
Yeah,
Um,
the other dope thing is sometimes they catch error flights. So
yeah.
like maybe Delta accidentally put a $19 first class flight to Africa or something like that, and they'll give you the link to book it. So actually, I got a flight for my mom. She's going to the Ivory Coast for $200 out of New York because she booked a um, Aeroflight. Now, here's a little secret: if you ever book an Aeroflight, they can cancel your ticket.
Mm.
So the best thing to do is book the $10 insurance, because with the $10 insurance, they will not cancel your ticket because they have to insure your trip. So if you ever buy an Aeroflight, that's a tip for you guys: buy the $10 insurance. You didn't pay much for the flight to begin with. They won't cancel your flight typically they won't cancel your flight because the insurance basically insures the trip, so they would still have to send you at some point.
Wow, dude, that's
Yeah.
that's worth its weight in we'll say US dollars in fiat currency. That's worth its
Yes,
weight in
yes.
fiat currency. That's super dope. And we talked a little bit before, but tell me about your mom going to Ivory Coast, you said?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you haven't been to the continent yet. What's going on? I know that's very
So
generous of you, but when you
so I'm
go,
supposed to be going with her.
okay, okay.
Um, yeah, I'm supposed to be going with her. We will see. Things are changing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, my job is actually having me doing domestic travel. So I don't know exactly where I'll be during that particular trip. I would love to go with her, um, and experience the motherland with my mother.
Oh,
uh,
hashtag cute.
yes, yes. um, hashtag Mom is Bay, right? Um, so yeah, that would be great. That's kind of been my experience. Just kind of talk about that a little bit. My father passed away 2 years ago, and
Wow.
it was the first time in my mom's life that she finally uh, didn't have anyone she had to take care of. My grandmother, when I was growing up, she took care of all of her sisters, and brother who had health challenges.
Yeah.
And that was normal for her. She was always a caregiver on top of doing all the other things that she did. And so I made a commitment to myself that every year I was going to take my mom somewhere out the country, until there was a point where she couldn't go anymore, and we've stayed to that. So last year we went to Aruba. This year she went to Cartagena with me, so we celebrated my birthday and Mother's Day together. So I want her uh, to experience, the things that she's given me,
Yeah.
and to have that kind of come full circle for her, now that she's retired, now that she doesn't have anyone she has to necessarily worry about and take care of, that she can go and travel. So, and she's doing it. She just called me and told me she's going to be in Savannah, and she's going to Charleston. And I'm like, with who?
With who? Who you gonna be
I
there
didn't
with?
give permission for this excursion. So I love it. I love it, that she's doing that, and that I can do that for her, and that will, like, always be my goal, is to be able to provide new experiences for her and for myself. And as we kind of talked about briefly, birthdays are marquee things for me, and so this birthday I got a chance to reflect, like, what's next, man. Like, I want to go to all 7 continents. I want to do uh like, go to every country in the world. I'm
Wow.
following uh a sister who is currently trying to be the first Black woman to visit every country in the world, which I
I
think
just
is
saw
dope.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's inspiring me, and so I was like, what can I do that's realistic but also a challenge? And so my goal is to do 35 countries by the age of 35. And, like, I counted, I'm at 12, so I have some work to do.
Right.
But I just turned 32, so I have 3 years to do it. And so I'm excited. I don't know where that's going to take me, and I might just book a flight and just start hopping on trains across Europe or whatever, that come what may.
Yeah.
I'm just excited for the next chapter of traveling, and I've even considered, in the industry that I'm in, moving abroad, um, because I do believe that the world is much easier to access through Europe.
Mm.
If once you're on that side, you can get to Africa easily. You can get to Australia easily. You can get to, Asia easily. So I've even considered looking for a job in hospitality, somewhere in the other side of the pond. So we shall see. Who knows what the next few chapters hold? But 35 countries by 35 is the new goal for me. So
That's what's up, man. I love the creativity, and with that kind of hustle and grind and commitment, you're gonna get there. Shout out to moms too. Like you really doing it.
yeah.
You winning Son of the Year. I'll just concede my award. But listen, man, we're coming up close to time, so I always ask my guests. I'm sure. I mean, at least by this point, I mean, you dropping nuggets that are saving people money, that are inspiring them. How would you suggest for somebody who might be a little bit timid to getting their, adventure started? How would you suggest that somebody start? Like, what's something practical they could do to kind of put them on a similar path if they find what you've been doing inspirational?
Wow, you just gotta jump, man. You have to leap. I am a man of faith, and I believe that a lot of time fear keeps us from um, doing things. The fear of failure, the fear of what if something happens to me, and the reality of that is you could go nowhere and something could happen to you.
Real talk, real talk.
And so my advice is jump out there, do it. If you're scared to travel by yourself, um or you don't your friends don't want to do what you do, fine. A lot of the black travel sites are now sponsoring trips.
Mm-hmm.
Go sign up for a trip and say, hey, I'm going to go. I don't know anyone, but I'm going to go and speak to the universe that I'm going to have a great time and I'm going to meet new people and have a new experience and potentially even create new friends that will last a lifetime. And I think that's a cool way to kind of ease your way into it, because they kind of set an itinerary for you. There's other people to help translate languages, or just provide the experience, so you don't have to do much of the work. You just pay for the trip.
Right.
And you can really concentrate on that. And then as you get more savvy and as you get more comfortable, then you can start taking trips by yourself or planning your own trips. Like me, I've never used a travel agent. Don't have any desire to. Um, you know, I just do it all myself,
Sure.
So I think that would be a good way just to explore and try more. Just jump, do a group trip, one of the travel blogs or travel, websites. I won't say any particular one because I don't really know all of them, and I'm not necessarily trying to plug them, but I think they're great, and the things that they provide are great to give people cater experiences who may not go by themselves.
100%. I love that perspective, because actually up to this point, a lot of people suggested travel solo, and now we have kind of a full spectrum on people's opinions who have experience. I think they both have value. You just need to understand which is going to work for you. And if it's what it takes to get started, like you said, jump, do it. Really
Yeah.
appreciate that, bro. So in wrapping up, my friend, we talked about the 35 countries by 35. I think that's super dope. However, you have another account that you are starting up. Can you share something about that?
Yes, so I was taking my own advice and jumping.
Hey.
Um, I think uh, so. I started my own, kind of travel blog, and I felt like there's a lot of blogs out there right now that are established, visual blogs that are established, and so I was like, I really don't want to compete with them, and not that I'm afraid to,
Mm.
but maybe create a different space and a different perspective for people. And so I came up with the idea of where in the world, INN,
Mm-hmm.
for in as in hotel. Me being a hotelier, I just felt like, oh, that's something I already do professionally. So I had the knowledge of hotels and how they work and things like that. But then provide that on an international scale. So basically, if you're staying at a dope hotel, has a dope experience, you can tag me at hashtag WINNTW, which is where in the
Mm-hmm.
world. And I'll just kind of repost it and just kind of showing people like, hey, you're going to Bali, hey, you're going to Greece, hey, this hotel is amazing, it's 4-star, or it has this amazing experience. One of my favorite hotels is actually in Nairobi. Um, and it's the Giraffe Manor. And you may have seen those pictures where people are like eating dinner and there's a giraffe sitting in the window looking at them, and like that's a dope
Right.
experience. And so that was my leap. I wanted to do it, and I've kind of talked about it and talked myself out of it, and I had friends like, man, just do it, just do it, just do it. And I think also connected to China, when I saw the love that I got from like my pictures in China, from just like the big social media blogs, it just kind of was like, hey man, you're in the space, you're
Right.
here, and just take the jump. And push come to shove, if you get one like, it doesn't matter. It's not going to stop you from being a global traveler. So
100%, 100%, man. I think that's dope, and I'm glad you took that motivation, because that's where I saw some of your stuff, and these are dope shots, y'all. So make sure you check them out. I was just like, what the hell is going on here? Like this is doper than usual. No, but it was inspirational for myself. I didn't even know some of those sites were out there, and just the way you presented it visually was on point. And where in the world does not disappoint either. These pads, these hotels are definitely on point.
If I can give one plug, I'm not a big plug person, but one of the people who I'm big on giving credit where it's due. I think one of the biggest persons or people to inspire me, and I actually don't know this person. I was told he's my fraternity brother. I have not verified it, but it's Mr. Elton Anderson Jr. And his pictures have kind of broke the internet. Of his friends in Bali and doing all these trips and various places that they've been, to kind of like step my game up. I was like, oh man, they coming hard. Like, we can't be out here with these flip phone pictures anymore, on Instagram. So, it made me step up my game. And not that it's a competition, but I just felt like there was a level of Black excellence that needs to be projected. Right. And I wanted to be part of that conversation. And so I was like, hey, if this is what we got to do to be part of the conversation, let's do it. And I don't think one of the organizations I used to be in is called the Frogs. Friendly rivalry often generates success. And I think that, if someone is the standard, there's no shame in saying, hey, this person's the standard. Let's meet them there. Let's go there. So Elton, if you're ever listening to this, I appreciate what you do and creating a platform for Black excellence and showing us all over the diaspora.
That's what's up, man. And super, that displays a lot of humility for you to plug somebody that inspired you on your own show. Like, I'm so excited and humbled by the quality of guests we've been able to attract to this show so far, man. So thanks for being in the number, bro.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you for creating this platform. I think is definitely needed. And thank you for taking the leap, man. I know that this could be scary. Like, will anyone listen? Will people follow me? Do people like the things I have to say? And we live in a day and age that is full of a lot of opinions. And a lot of people hide behind social media and different devices to be destructive. But, what a great thing to come together and bring people together to be positive and kind of just put, great energy into the universe.
Oh, man, dude, definitely appreciate those words. We're here to celebrate and inspire if we are so blessed to do so. And I think your story so far has been both of those things. So, dude, thank you for visiting us at The Point. We will definitely be in touch. And y'all make sure to check out his new venture, Where in the World, and he's on Instagram at the Jon Robert. Bro, thanks for visiting us today.
No H in the John.
Jon Robert. Did I make it sound like there was an H in there? My bad.
Well, everyone wants to put an H in John. It's Jonathan, and so it's Jon. They always want to put that H in. So don't follow him. Follow me, please.
Right. Who knows who he is? We're gonna have everything 100% straight in the show notes, and the Jon Robert will be proofreading. So, y'all, until next time, thanks for joining us at The Point. Jon will be in touch. Thank you, brother.
Peace and blessings.
All right, man. Peace.
Bye.
From a missionary kid to a man on a mission to hit 35 countries by the age of 35, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the Jon Robert. If you haven't already, make sure you follow him on Instagram at thejon, Jon Robert, and check out his passion project, Where in the World. And if you're staying somewhere super dope, make sure you tag them. Hashtag WINNTW. I'm sure him and his team will check it out and give you guys some props. You know what I'm saying? You guys get to be on a little travel influence account. It'll be dope. Thank you so much for coming out, bro, and sharing all that knowledge. I'll be sure to check out Secret Flights myself. See where I can pop off to on the low. Save them coins. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another great session here at Point Noir, session 6. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely give us your feedback. Again, rate, review, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter. And if you're looking to get sponsored and you're a man of color, you got the instructions in the first half. I'll do them again on the second. 1, follow Jerry the Third on Twitter. 2, tell us what having a passport means to you. And 3, make sure you include the hashtag PassPoint18, and we'll check them all out at the end of the month and pick somebody at random. There you go. Hope you guys enjoy your week. We'll be back next Tuesday with another fresh episode and another awesome guest. Until the next time, I'm Jerry the Third, aka Kimono Jack, signing off.